Welcome to Fwamp Fwamp Sports. My name is Richard Harris, and tonight we're going to talk about the San Francisco 49ers. When I was a child, my favorite team, as it is still to this day, was the New York Giants. But I respected and liked the Raiders, the Steelers, the Dolphins, and even the 49ers. I like the Raiders because of their never die attitude. They were renegades. They played hard, didn't have as much talent as other teams, but just willed themselves to win. I like Miami because they had an offense that was balanced, a no-name defense of underachieving guys, and they were 3 Super Bowls in a row when I was a young boy. I love the Steelers because Franco Harris was a Harris, and Terry Bradshaw was supposed to be this quote-unquote idiot quarterback who somehow, someway was smart enough to play football. But people thought he was dumb, but he was special, and the players around him were special, and that combination made them a 4-time champion. And, of course, the New York Football Giants had my favorite football player of all time, Lawrence Taylor. My father was a Giant fan. We used to go to Giant practices and spring training and all kinds of stuff. And the Giants just exuded toughness. I wasn't a tough kid, but the Giants was a tough football team, and I aspired to be like them even though I wasn't. The one team that used to drive me crazy and probably drove a lot of guys crazy throughout the history of National Football League in that era from 1975 to 1996 was the San Francisco 49ers. The San Francisco 49ers exuded professionalism. The Cowboys were America's team because they had the Hall of Fame and Heisman Trophy winning quarterback Staubach and Dorsett, the running back, and the cheerleaders, and the stadium with the roof open so God can keep his one eye on his favorite team. And but it wasn't all about football. They just made plays. The Washington football team, they had a bunch of old guys, over the hill gang, and guys who were underachievers, and then they got really good with the fun bunch. Like Joe Gibbs was a pseudo genius. But nobody was genius. No organization was more professional. No organization misrepresented what we thought football was all about, like the 49ers. The 49ers was that team that looked pretty in the airport, looked pretty on the sideline, looked pretty in warm-ups, looked organized, and just annoyed you to death. I mean, the Cowboys annoyed people because of that in between, and Staubach would call the cadence, and they would do that hop up and pop down, like a choreographer danced offensive line movements and the shotgun and like things that other teams didn't do. But the 49ers took it to another level. And it's funny because like in the 60s, the Packers had the Packer sweep, where they pulled 2 guards, and Taylor and Hornig would run in between the block from the receiver here and the guard here, and the tackle blocking down there, and they would create this seam, and it was Lombardi just described it, and it was just basically simple, hardcore, hat-on-hat football. But the 49ers took all that simplicity and became this professional machine. And when the Giants would play them, or the Bears would play them, and they'd sack Montana and beat up Montana and knock Roger Craig silly, or knock Dwight Clark silly, or Jerry Rice, or John Taylor in that NFC Championship game, you as a football fan, you were cheered because you were like, that's old school football, beating this intricate, professional, scientific offense to shreds. But when the 49ers were on point, like they were in that Super Bowl against Denver, or Montana just surgically just diced them up, or when Steve Young did the same thing to San Diego, you look back and you're like, wow, that is just supreme play calling. And also the image of the 49ers. Jerry Rice, they say, created T.O. because Jerry Rice used to say that the only way to play good is to look good. So his uniform had to be a certain way. His towel had to be a certain way. Socks had to be a certain way. And if you look at the way they just dressed, they look clean and like a well-oiled machine. And they were the team that people aspired to be because everything about that organization was first class. That's the phrase that described the 49ers. Professional and first class. Well, that was then. Today, and this past year, this past 13-month period, has seen a team lose a coach. Now, before I go there, yes, the 49ers are also known for the unceremonious departures, where it's getting rid of Montana to the Chiefs, whether it's getting rid of Owens to the Eagles, or getting rid of the way Seifert went out, or Charles Haley being, great players just being kicked to the roadside. Jerry freaking Rice, arguably the top 3 football players ever to play the game, was humiliated by the 49ers. That they, on his day, Steve Young and Terrell Owens set an NFL record for most receptions in a game. And Jerry Rice caught a pass when the game was out of reach. Disgraced him, and Mariucci, the coach, didn't even know it. This team, this season, resembled that. They had players retire for no reason, claiming concussions, claiming just lack of love of the game. They fired Jim Harbaugh. The coach had taken him to 3 NFC championship games in a row. The confidence of their quarterback was destroyed as they made their offensive line coach their head coach, and he was fired at the end of this season. And now they bring in Chip Kelly, who, yes, is an offensive guru, and he had a good run with the Eagles, but for some reason, something didn't work with the Eagles. Kelly got rid of all of his good players. Maybe he fits into the 49ers mold. I don't know. But what I do know is this team has gone from being the symbol, the poster boy of organization, to class personified, to professionalism, to the most dysfunctional, disorganized, sloppy organization that anyone can ever see. In one day, the 49ers tell the nation that they're going to keep Colin Kaepernick on their roster so he get his $11.9 million pay. And then the next day, Colin Kaepernick comes out and says, I want to be traded. I don't want to play on this team. I mean, they threw me under a bus for Blaine Gabbert. They let Frank Gore go 2 seasons ago. This team is a mess. This team was the symbol of excellence in the NFL. Everybody used to go to the 49er practices. Everybody used to want to learn from that team. And it's a disgrace now that every time you turn on the TV, there's 3 things you see about the NFL. Johnny Manziel, the Dallas Cowboys, and something to do with the 49ers. And none of it's ever good. And here we are now in draft season, where they need to retool and rebuild, where they need to replace the players that have left, the players that have retired, I mean, Aldon Smith is a Raider. I mean, this team had players retire before their time was up. And here they are now, trying to figure out who they are in a division that has Seattle and Arizona, who are up and coming and not going anywhere. I mean, there's been a team from the NFC West and the NFC Championship game, 5 years in a row? They need to get the DeBartolo magic back. And even though they had issues in their departures, they need to find that professionalism and regain its throne and the hierarchy in the National Football League. And yes, winning would do that. But this team this past season, they got a good young rookie running back, the kid from Ohio State that got hurt early in the year. They got good veteran receivers. They let Vernon Davis go, who went and got a ring with the Broncos. The defense is always going to be tough, but obviously they got to make some moves. Supposedly this guy Anthony Davis wants to come out of retirement to play again. But somebody needs to step in and say enough is enough. It's not the 49ers that I remember. But then again, that's just one man's opinion. I'm Richard Harris.